You broke very big news in the last hour. One is that there's a tape. And then the other big news is there's a lot more tape. It was one thing to play this tape of Kevin McCarthy tonight, which was really stunning to hear. But then Jonathan Martin told you in that discussion that this is one of many tapes they have that apparently they will be releasing as necessary to prove their points for a book that won't even be coming out until May 3rd. It sounds like Republicans in the House, like Kevin McCarthy, have to be worrying tonight about what else is on tape.
I mean, Kevin McCarthy wants to be Speaker of the House. The Republican hope and expectation is that they'll win enough seats in the midterm elections that the Republicans will be in control and he'll be elected Speaker. He's got a lot of problems within his caucus already. What we reported tonight is that he told other Republicans in Congress that he was going to call Trump and tell Trump he needed to resign. He denied that he said it. He said that was absurd and he didn't say it. It's on tape. He, in fact, lied. Those denials were false. And then what we learned tonight, which was a surprise to me in my interview with Jonathan Martin and Alex Burns, is that it's amazing. McCarthy has also denied that he said that other members, Republican members of Congress, should have their Twitter accounts. They should have their social media accounts canceled for the same reason that Trump did. He has denied saying that. They told me tonight, I was shocked that they have that on tape, too. That's tape we haven't yet heard, but they now say they're holding in reserve. This is very difficult for Kevin McCarthy. You cannot just flat out lie about stuff like this, particularly when you're already in a precarious position in these kinds of politics. It's very, very, very bad for Kevin McCarthy, and I will be surprised if there aren't calls for his resignation, both for his resignation and for Senator McConnell's resignation, based on this new reporting that they can run from, but they can't hide from.
Now, not to make it more uncomfortable for Kevin McCarthy, but just because I've only heard this once. We're going to run the tape one more time, and this is after Kevin McCarthy said today, and I quote, "The New York Times reporting on me is totally false and wrong." He's completely denying what is in this tape that we're just going to play one more time right now. Let's listen to this, Rachel.
Okay.
Liz, you on the phone?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Kevin. I guess there's a question. When we were talking about the 25th Amendment resolution, and you asked if what happens if it gets there after he's gone. Is there any chance? Are you hearing that he might resign? Is there any reason to think that might happen?
I've had some few discussions. My gut tells me no. I'm seriously thinking of having that conversation with him tonight. I haven't talked to him in a couple days. From what I know of him, I mean, you guys all know him too. Do you think he'd ever back away? But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to call him. This is what I think. No, it'll pass the House. I think there's a chance it'll pass the Senate even when he's gone. And I think there's a lot of different ramifications for that. Now, I haven't had a discussion with the Dems that if he did resign, would it not happen? Now, this is one personal fear I have. I do not want to get into any conversations about Pence party or anything like that. I mean, the only discussion I would have with him is that I think this will pass, and it would be my recommendation we should resign. I mean, that would be my take, but I don't think he would take it, but I don't know.
Rachel, can I go back to a point that you didn't have time to cover in that discussion earlier tonight? It begins with Liz Cheney saying, we were talking about the 25th Amendment resolution. So there's a giant story in there that we have yet to learn, which is what was Kevin McCarthy saying about the 25th Amendment and with whom, and what was Liz Cheney saying? Liz Cheney apparently was researching the 25th Amendment process, and then it turns into a resign discussion, the discussion that Kevin McCarthy denied before he knew that you had a tape that you're going to play on television tonight.
The 25th Amendment thing, that is a very astute point. Not only had they been talking about the 25th Amendment, but he was asking detailed questions about how it would be implemented, at least according to the way that tape goes. Thanks, Kevin, Liz Cheney says. I'm guessing, yeah, there's a question. When we were talking about the 25th Amendment resolution, McCarthy says, yeah. Cheney says, and you asked, you know, what happens if it gets there after he's gone? Is there any chance? Are you hearing that he might resign? So McCarthy and Liz Cheney and presumably others are having enough of a detailed conversation about the 25th Amendment that they're talking about what might happen with the 25th Amendment and its implementation if he resigns in the middle of that process. And they're trying to figure out how it's going to play out on the ground. And then they get from that into, yeah, Kevin McCarthy's going to tell him to resign. And McCarthy's, I will tell you, this denial that you just quoted, Lawrence, from McCarthy and his office today is absolutely correct. NBC News went back to McCarthy's office to make sure that denial was exactly what they meant. Asked again if McCarthy said he would push President Trump to resign. The answer was no, he did not. We have McCarthy saying here he would push Trump to resign. McCarthy is flat out lying about this. It's very damaging to him even before the lie. But then lying about it is just untenable. You can't be this dishonest about things this big and hold a leadership job that's about to become way bigger.
Well, you certainly can't do that and hold a Democratic leadership job. We are now going to see the test of, we know as a Republican you can lie like this in the presidency, and Republican voters have no problem with it, and Republican members of Congress have no problem with it. We're going to find out what House Republican tolerance is for this kind of lying by Kevin McCarthy, and as far as they might think, betrayal of Donald Trump.
That's the other part of it. I mean, how do you think that Trump is going to respond to hearing on tape Kevin McCarthy say, I'm going to tell him that he's got to resign, and to hearing from the same reporters in the same chapter of the book that McConnell was sort of gleefully saying, yeah, the Democrats are going to get rid of that SOB for us. I mean, already Trump and McConnell is there's a lot of friction there. But with McCarthy trying to ascend to the speakership and now Trump having this on his plate, I mean, I wouldn't bet on it.
And many more tapes to come.
Yeah, amazing.
What a night. Thank you, Rachel, very much.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you.